I never thought a pair of earbuds could ruin my life in 3 days. Don't use them. Call the cops. Now. Mark's words cut through the office air like a razor. The entire open-plan floor went silent. I stood there with the case open in my hand, the 2 earbuds gleaming inside, far too small to cause so much panic. Mark never made a scene. Mid-40 seconds, with the gaze of an auditor who can spot fraud in the way someone holds a pen. When he yelled, my stomach dropped. "Mark, what is it?" I asked, keeping my voice low. He didn't take his eyes off the case. "Put it on the desk. Now." I slowly closed the case and placed it beside my keyboard, not out of fear, but instinct. He leaned in close to me, his face pale. "Caroline, I'm dead serious. That thing could destroy you." My full name. He only used it when it was grave. I took a deep breath. I was 38 years old, head of the risk management department at an investment firm in Chicago, and I'd learned not to react on impulse. A lot of people called me cold. I called it survival. An hour earlier, I'd arrived smiling. It was my birthday. It hadn't been a happy day for me in a long time. I hadn't truly celebrated in years. Still, I accepted the simple cake in the break room and the quick round of applause, like someone fulfilling a protocol. And I had a gift in my purse, a gift I honestly never expected to receive from the person who gave it. Lucy, my husband's daughter, 22 years old, beautiful, smart, and always distant. For years, she'd treated me like a house guest who had overstayed her welcome. The night before, she'd shown up at our condo with a bag from a high-end store, handed me the black case, and said with a calculated sweetness, "I want to start over. This is something useful for you. It's problems 2-minute bedded." My husband, Robert, smiled, satisfied, as if I were finally winning the family over. I accepted, because I was tired of fighting for space, and because, for a second, I wanted to believe it was peace. At work, I opened the case near my desk. "Now I can finally focus," I joked with 2 of the analysts. That's when Mark walked behind my chair, glanced down for a fraction of a second, and froze. The shout came next. Now, he pulled me into a corner, away from curious ears. "Who gave you that?" he asked. "Lucy, my stepdaughter." Mark pressed his lips together, trying not to speak too loudly. "Last week, I was in a closed-door meeting. There was a big case. An executive was accused of a data leak because a small device showed up connected to his phone, a device just like that." "And he used it?" I asked. "No," Mark answered. "He just paired it. That was enough to put his name in the line of fire." I felt a chill run up my spine, but my face didn't change. "Are you saying this could be a setup?" "I'm saying you shouldn't touch it again, and you need to protect yourself. Now." I looked at the case on my desk, as ordinary as a pen, and yet it suddenly seemed immensely heavy. I didn't argue. I grabbed my purse, my laptop, and walked out as if I were just heading to an off-site meeting. In the elevator, I leaned my head against the cool metal wall and asked the question I didn't have the courage to say out loud. Why would Lucy do this? Outside, Chicago was just Chicago. Bike messengers weaving through traffic, people rushing with grocery bags, the blare of horns, the city's heat life screaming that nothing was wrong, while inside, I heard the exact opposite. I didn't go home that night. I silently rented a small apartment in a secure high-rise in River North. An attentive doorman, cameras everywhere, key handed over without too many questions. I needed time to think without eyes inside my living room. In the bedroom of the new place, I took the case out of my purse and stared at it as if it could speak. I didn't open it. I didn't put the earbuds in. I just sat on the edge of the bed and breathed. 3 years earlier, I had lost a baby. Since that day, I learned one thing: the world doesn't warn you before it pulls the rug out from under you. And I never again let anyone else decide for me what was an overreaction, so I moved forward with a plan. First, I texted my lawyer, Henry, the only one I called when something smelled like a scam. "Henry, need to talk first thing tomorrow. It's urgent." Second, I let Mark know. "Thanks. Don't mention this to anyone. We'll talk tomorrow." Third, I changed all my passwords. Bank, email, cloud storage, apps. I didn't know where the trap was coming from, so I locked every door I could. Finally, I did what would seem absurd to anyone who doesn't work with sensitive information. I filed a police report. Not against Lucy, not yet. I reported that I had received a suspicious object and feared I was the target of an attempt to frame me. The officer looked at me with an expression that said, "Another paranoid civilian." I maintained my posture. "I handle client data. I can't wait for the damage to be done," I said. He typed. And I walked out with a piece of paper in my hand and a knot in my stomach. I slept very little. When I did, I dreamed of Robert's face, expressionless, the kind of face I saw when he wanted me to give in without an argument. The next morning, his text arrived early. "You disappeared? Lucy's worried. Come home." There was no, "Are you okay?" No, "What happened?" Just control. Just a demand. I replied with a single line, "Handling something. I'll talk to you later." I went to work as usual. Light makeup, hair tied back, straight posture, my armor. When I stepped onto our floor, I sensed the mood before I heard a single word. A strange silence, people averting their eyes, the kind of silence born from a rumor. I walked to my desk and saw two men standing near the director's office. One was from our internal security team. The other, I didn't know. Simple suit, hard eyes, hands too free for a normal person. He turned in my direction. "Caroline Almeida?" I stopped. "Yes." He flashed a badge too quickly for me to read properly. "We need to talk. Now." The security guard beside him added in a tone that wasn't a request. "It's about a data breach. Your name came up." My body didn't tremble, but inside I felt the ice spread slowly, as if someone had opened a door in the middle of my chest. And I understood that the 3 days were over. The man in the simple suit didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "Caroline Almeida, please. Conference room 2. I walked without rushing, as if it were a normal Tuesday meeting, but my body recognized the danger before my mind would accept it. The hallway seemed longer. People pretended to type, pretended to drink water, pretended not to listen. At the door to the room, our internal security head, Edward, avoided my gaze. "It's procedure, Caroline, I'm sorry." I walked in. The room had frosted glass, a small table, and 2 chairs. The man in the suit sat down first. He placed a recorder on the table. "My name is Detective Miller, Chicago PD, Cybercrimes Division." The company's head of compliance, Stephen, entered behind him. Stephen was the polished type, who only smiled when he was winning. He pulled out a file. "Caroline, this needs to be quick. There's a major client involved." Miller opened his own file calmly. On Friday night, there was unauthorized access to internal reports and a spreadsheet with investor data. The access originated from a login that, so far, is linked to your keycard. I didn't flinch. My keycard never left my possession. Stephen slid a paper across the table. "But your 2FA token was active at 11:12 p.m. and 11:48 p.m. from a residential Wi-Fi network, not the office." A residential network. My blood ran cold. The condo I shared with Robert had Wi-Fi registered in our names. If someone wanted to link me to a breach outside the company, that was the place. Miller watched me, measuring every detail. "Were you at home on Friday night, ma'am?" "No," I replied. "I was in my car, driving to another address." "I have proof." Stephen sighed impatiently. "The point is, this has become a reputational risk. We need to understand if this was carelessness or intentional." I pressed my fingertips firmly on the table. "Are you accusing me, or are you investigating?" Miller answered before Stephen could. "Investigating, but your name came up, and someone filed a formal complaint." My stomach tightened. "Who?" Stephen looked away. A small gesture, but a very clear one. Miller didn't look away. "Your husband, Robert Moreira." The room suddenly felt smaller. I could hear my own heart beating, but my face didn't change. I wouldn't give them that pleasure. "He reported what, exactly?" I asked. Miller read from his file. "That you were manipulating information for personal gain and had been acting erratically. According to him, your behavior had changed in recent months." I almost laughed. Almost. Stephen tried to soften it. "Caroline, this is serious. When a complaint comes in with a name and a social security number, we can't ignore it." I stared at the file on the table. Inside, I was thinking one thing. Robert wasn't protecting his daughter. He was feeding me to the wolves. I knew how this worked. I worked in risk. I knew the value of a prepackaged narrative. He wanted to paint me as unstable, unpredictable, dangerous, That way, anything that appeared under my name would seem plausible. Miller continued, "There's another point. A witness stated they saw you with a new pair of in-ear earbuds at the office, a specific model. The case," I looked at Stephen. Mark told them. Stephen didn't deny it. Mark registered it as an alert. He did the right thing. Miller leaned his elbows on the table. "Do you still have this object, ma'am?" I did. It was in my purse, inside a sealed plastic bag with tape over the seal and my signature across it. I had done it in the middle of the night, calmly, not because I knew everything, but because I'd learned to document anything that could be turned into a weapon. I opened my purse and slowly placed the package on the table. Miller didn't touch it. "What is this?" "The earbuds. I didn't use them. I didn't open the case after the warning. I filed a police report yesterday." Stephen blinked, surprised. "You went to the police?" "Yes," I replied, "because I knew someone was going to try to pin something on me." Miller picked up the report number and read the summary on his device. His expression changed. It didn't soften, but it became more careful. "You were right to document this." Stephen pursed his lips. "Even so, the firm will need to place you on temporary leave." I tilted my head. "No." Stephen frowned. "Caroline, it's protocol." "Protocol is to investigate based on facts," I said coldly. "I came to work. I am here. You can monitor me, access my computer, check my logs. But putting me on leave before you investigate is convicting me." Stephen opened his mouth to argue. Miller raised a hand, controlling the room. "She has a point. Suspension without a full analysis could lead to a wrongful termination suit. Let's do this the right way." I saw Stephen's gaze harden. He wanted speed, and I was the obstacle. Miller pulled out an authorization form. "Caroline, we need to collect your corporate laptop and your cell phone for forensic analysis. Do you consent?" I agreed, and I moved my own plan forward right there. "I consent," I said, "but I want a copy of the seizure form and my attorney present." Stephen let out a short, irritated sound. "An attorney, Caroline? That's an overreaction." I cut him off without raising my voice. "An overreaction is someone accessing data in my name at 11 p.m., and everyone thinking that's normal. An attorney is protection." Miller nodded. "She has that right." Stephen fell silent. While Edward collected my laptop, I sent a quick message from my personal phone, which I would not be handing over. "Henry. My husband reported me. The company and the police are questioning me. I need you here now." The reply came in less than a minute. "Henry, I'm on my way. Don't sign anything without me. Don't go home." I had no intention of going back. Miller stood up. "Let's be clear, Caroline. If this device has any kind of modification, and if the access was made from your home network, you're going to have to prove you weren't involved." "I will prove it," I replied. He looked at me with a seriousness that wasn't a threat, but a statement of reality. "And I suggest you stop underestimating the source of this." I thought of Lucy, her soft voice, the elegant bag, the restrained smile. And I thought of Robert, the way he told me to come home as if I were a child being punished. I was no longer in a family conflict. I was in the middle of something that could take down my career, my freedom, everything. When Henry arrived, the atmosphere in the room shifted. A lawyer in the room always changes the air. He squeezed my hand. "Caroline, are you okay?" "I'm lucid," I said. It was the most emotion I would give them. Henry quickly read everything on the table, requested a copy of every document, and noted down times, names, and titles. Miller observed him with respect, Stephen with impatience. Then Henry asked the question I hadn't yet asked out loud. "Who had access to Caroline's home environment on Friday?" I answered before my body could hesitate. "My husband and his daughter. They have keys, passwords, the routine." Stephen sighed as if this were just domestic drama. Henry was unfazed. "Then you should note that," he said, looking at Miller. "Because someone who wants to frame a person doesn't need to touch the device. They just need to put her name in its path." Miller didn't argue. "I'm taking this item for official analysis, but I'm warning you, this could take time." Henry leaned forward. "And I'm warning you that if her name is leaked before this is concluded, the firm will be held responsible." Stephen clutched his file tightly. "Caroline, until further notice, you'll work from home." I looked at him. Work from home? From the place where the unauthorized access had been registered? "I don't have a home," I said flatly. "I left." He looked confused. So did Miller. "Why?" I took a breath. Because I'm not an idiot. On my way out, Mark appeared near the break room. He was tense, as if carrying guilt. "Caroline, I'm so sorry." I stopped for half a second. "You saved me," I said. "Just don't tell that to anyone else." Mark nodded, swallowing hard. I walked out to the street with Henry by my side. The morning sun was shining as if it were a normal day. That's what hurt. The world didn't stop for what they were doing to me. My personal phone buzzed. A notification from my bank. Zelle payment received. $1. Sender. Robert Morera. Message. Just making sure you're reading this. Come home. Henry saw my face harden. "What is it?" I showed him the screen. Henry grew serious. "He's testing contact and provoking you." I put the phone away. "No one sends $1 out of affection," I said coldly. "This is a warning." Henry rubbed his chin. "Caroline, if he filed a formal complaint, he might try more." As if the universe wanted to confirm it, my phone vibrated again. It was an unknown number, I answered. "Caroline Almeida?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes. This is the Cook County Courthouse, Family Division. I'm confirming receipt of a summons. Are you aware of a motion filed by Mr. Robert Morera?" My chest felt tight. "What motion?" I asked. The woman replied with the cruel neutrality of someone just doing their job. "A request for a protective order and removal from the home, alleging risk." I closed my eyes for 1 second, just one. When I opened them, I was whole again, because I understood. Robert didn't just want to frame me at work. He wanted to cut me off from everything. The voice from the courthouse was still in my ear as I crossed the street and entered a small cafe, the kind with a glass counter and the smell of freshly baked croissants. Henry sat across from me and took out his phone. "A protective order is no joke," he said. "If he gets a temporary injunction, you can't set foot in the condo. If you do, he'll claim you violated it, and it'll make headlines." I stared at the sugar at the bottom of my glass without stirring. "He painted me as a threat." "He painted you as unstable," Henry corrected. "That's worse, because everyone believes it faster." I felt the urge to call Robert, to ask why, to demand an explanation. I didn't. I learned early that people who orchestrate these things only win when you beg. "What's the next step?" I asked. Henry opened the court's app and confirmed the case number. "First, we're filing a motion to access the case file today. Second, we'll file a response and a motion to dismiss. Third, we're going to prove he's using the judiciary as a tool of control." I set my cup down. "And the data breach?" "One thing at a time," Henry said, with no patience for drama. "But it's all connected. He wants to kick you out of the house to isolate you and create a single narrative. He wants you with no ground to stand on." I gave a slight nod. "Then I'll create my own ground." Henry looked at me as if he knew I was angry, but didn't need me to shout it. "You need a fixed address," he said. "A safe one. And you need to document everything, every call, every message, every contact attempt." I had already been doing that since I filed the police report. I left the cafe and got a rideshare. As the driver made his way down Michigan Avenue, my phone vibrated again. Bank notification. Password changed successfully. I hadn't changed it. My finger froze on the screen. Then came a second notification. "Your account was accessed on a new device." I closed my eyes for half a second. This wasn't just a complaint, not just a protective order. It was a layered attack. I called the bank's fraud department right there, without taking a deep breath, without hesitating. I requested an immediate freeze on all access, a complete password overhaul, and the cancellation of all secondary cards. The agent asked for security confirmations. I answered on autopilot. When I hung up, the driver looked at me in the rearview mirror. "Everything okay, ma'am?" I smiled politely. "It's under control." It was a lie, but a necessary one. In my temporary apartment, I sat on the living room floor with my personal laptop, a notebook, and a pen. Simple things, real things. I drew a timeline. Thursday, Lucy delivers the earbuds. Friday night, unauthorized access on my login. Saturday, my husband files a complaint. Sunday, I file a police report and change my passwords. Monday, the police and compliance call me in. Now, a request for a protective order. The constant factor? Robert was always one step ahead, not because he was brilliant, but because he had access to my home, my routine, my former trust. Henry called me at 11:30 a.m. "I got a look at his petition," he said. Do you want to hear it or read it later? Tell me. He claims you threatened him, that you monitored his conversations, that you tried to control his finances, and that you had a breakdown last week. I let out a short puff of air through my nose. I don't even raise my voice. That's exactly why it works, Henry replied. Calm people are easy to paint as cold and dangerous. A tired judge sees a woman showing no emotion and thinks, there's something there. I rested my elbow on my knee. Did he mention Lucy? Yes, Henry said. She's listed as a witness. She claims you treated her with hostility, that she was afraid of you. My chest didn't ache. It went empty. Not because I didn't care, but because at that point, I understood the rules of the game. They would use everything emotional to push me into making a mistake. Good, I replied. Then she'll have to sustain that on the stand. Henry was silent for a second. Are you sure about what you're doing, Caroline? I am, I said. I'm just not going to do it the way they expect. And that's when I truly advanced my plan. First, I went to a notary. Not to make a scene, but to make it official. I got a sworn statement notarized. It simply declared that I had been residing outside the marital home since Sunday for reasons of personal safety and an ongoing investigation. Henry had suggested it. A signed document in America is worth more than tears. Second, I went back to the high-rise where I was staying temporarily and spoke to the building manager. I used my most polite, firm, and clear voice. I need the security camera footage from the lobby and the garage from the day I arrived here and the following 2 days. The manager scratched his head. We can only release that with a court order. My lawyer will formalize the request, I said, but I'm telling you now because the system overwrites every 7 days. If it's erased, that's lost evidence. He looked at me differently, as if I weren't just a woman with a problem, but someone who knew what she was doing. I'll set aside what I can, he replied. Third, I went to the building where I had lived with Robert, the building of our perfect life. I didn't go inside. I couldn't. I stood outside on the sidewalk, a stranger observing her own history. The doorman, Tony, saw me and his eyes widened. He had always been discreet with me, always human, and that, right now, was dangerous. He came to the gate. Mrs. Almeida, you can't be here. I know, Tony, I answered quietly. I just need one thing. It's quieted, all evisions. He bit his lip. They said that you... I know what they said. I cut in without aggression. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to understand. Tony looked around. On Friday, Mr. Moreira left late, and the young lady, Lucy, she came here. It was almost midnight. My stomach clenched. She doesn't live with you, he added. But she went up, and she wasn't alone. The air grew heavy. With whom? I asked. He hesitated. With a man. I didn't recognize him, but he came in as a guest. Mr. Moreira authorized it. A strange man, authorized by Robert, at the exact time of the unauthorized access. I felt the first piece click into place with a dry snap. Tony, are there cameras in the elevator? I asked. He shook his head slowly. There are, but I can't. I know, I said. I just need you not to erase anything. If anyone asks, you tell them the system is automatic, that there's no way to delete it. He swallowed hard. I like you, ma'am, he said, but I'm going to get in trouble for this. I held his gaze. I won't let that happen. I just need time. He nodded, afraid, and that gave me even more certainty. Because fear doesn't come from nowhere. Fear comes from an order. When I got back to my car, there was a text from Lucy. Lucy, hey, are you okay? My dad is frantic. Come home, we can talk. I read it twice. The word frantic didn't match the Robert who sent me a $1 Zelle payment. I replied with a short, calculated, clean text. I am handling matters with my attorney. Do not contact me. She took 2 minutes. Then came the reply. Lucy, you've always been like this. Cold. That's why no one trusts you. I smiled without showing my teeth. The bait. She wanted me to explode, wanted a screenshot, wanted proof of a threat. I didn't give it to her. I screenshotted her message, saved it to a folder, and turned my phone face down. Late that afternoon, Henry called again. I got something from the police, he said. Miller agreed to request an urgent forensic analysis of the device, but he wants to know one thing. What? Who else could be behind this? I looked at the white wall of the living room as if it were an investigation board. Robert isn't the brain, I said slowly. He's the face. Henry was quiet. And who's the brain? I remembered the man Tony had described, and a detail I had ignored for years. Robert had a younger brother, Daniel, always broke, always between jobs, always needing just a little help, and always with a knack for showing up when something dirty needed to be done. I think it's Daniel, I said, and I think Lucy didn't do this alone. Henry took a deep breath. Then you're going to need proof, not just suspicion. I know. I opened my personal laptop and went into my now frozen accounts, trying to piece together what I could. I saw access attempts, password reset attempts, and an email I hadn't noticed before. Subject: new device paired via Bluetooth. No model, no name. Just that. My skin prickled. If that pair of earbuds had been modified to register a pairing, someone could have created a perfect trail. The object passed through my hands, touched my environment, connected in my name. I didn't need to use them. I just needed to exist near them. That was it. I got up and went to the window. The Chicago skyline was clear, indecently normal, and then my phone vibrated again. This time it was a short audio message from an unknown number. I clicked play. The voice that came out wasn't Robert's, wasn't Lucy's. It was male, young, laughing softly. You did the right thing leaving the house, Caroline, but it's too late. We just need you in the right place at the right time. I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, without blinking, because I recognized that laugh. I'd heard it at family dinners. It was Daniel. I listened to the audio 3 times. By the 3rd time, I felt no surprise. I felt a cold, calm, as if my body had finally understood that I was at war. Henry arrived at my temporary apartment in less than an hour. When he walked in, I was sitting at the table with my phone and the open notebook. The timeline now had names. He listened to the audio, clenched his jaw, and looked at me. This is a direct threat. We'll add it to the file. I want him to think I'm scared, I said, but I'm not going to run without a direction. Henry pulled up a chair. Caroline, I know you're cold, but here you need to be strategic and fast. I'm strategic precisely because I'm cold, I replied without raising my voice. He nodded. It wasn't an argument. It was an alignment. I opened my banking app on my laptop and showed him something I hadn't mentioned yet. Look, the password reset attempts were made using an old security question. Innovation. As a matter, Henry frowned. Which one? What was the name of my first dog? He blinked. How would anyone know that? I rested the pen on the paper. Robert, I told him once, joking, early in our marriage. Only he knows. Henry took a deep breath. So he's not just accusing you, he's actively attacking you. He always has, I said. He just used to call it taking care of me. Henry leaned in. Okay, let's package this up. Daniel's audio, screenshots of Lucy's messages, the $1 Zelle, the police report, and an emergency motion in the family court case. And I'm going to ask the judge to reverse the order based on risk of manipulation and stalking. I nodded. But what I needed wasn't just to defend myself on paper. I needed a way to make the truth show its face, and that's when I took another step in my plan. Henry, I said, I want to talk to Mark. Henry raised an eyebrow. Your colleague who warned you? Him. Why? I rested my fingers on the table. Because he saw the case with his own eyes, and he has a reputation inside the company. If he confirms that thing is linked to another data breach case, the firm will be forced to treat this as a real criminal investigation, not domestic gossip. Henry agreed. Then let's approach him carefully, without exposing him. I sent Mark a message. I need to talk to you outside the office. Just 10 minutes. It's serious. He replied in 2. Mark. Tonight, 8 p.m. Parking garage of the Whole Foods in Lincoln Park. Don't text details. I liked that. Discretion. That night, I went. I parked far away, watched before I got out. I wasn't paranoid. I was realistic. Mark was leaning against his car, hands in his pockets, a tired look on his face. When he saw me, he spoke quietly, directly. They're burning you. I know, I replied. I just want to know by whom, exactly. He looked around. It's not just your family. There are people looking inside the company. And this is bigger. Tell me. Mark took a breath, as if weighing whether it was worth it. Last week, a major client almost pulled their portfolio. There was a blackmail attempt. Someone recorded a board meeting, leaked edited clips, and demanded money not to release the rest. My mouth went dry. And the device? A pair of earbuds. A common model, but modified, he said. The forensic expert said it looked like an earbud, but it had an extra board inside. It would connect and hijack the phone's microphone in the background. It didn't need a visible app, it just needed to pair. My stomach sank. So I just needed to be near it. Exactly, Mark replied. You become the entry point. Anyone who looks at the log sees your name, and that's it. You become the disposable piece. I looked him in the face. Did you tell compliance this? I alerted them. They pretended to take it seriously, but they're more concerned with protecting the brand than protecting you. I gave a short, joyless smile. They always protect the brand. People are replaceable. Mark leaned closer. Caroline, I don't know what you're going to do, but I'll tell you one thing. Whoever set this up knows what they're doing. So do I replied. He pressed his lips together as if he wanted to say more. There's another detail. I saw your network password being used on a machine that wasn't yours 2 weeks ago. I didn't say anything because I thought it was a glitch, but now, do you know which machine? I asked, holding my breath. One in the small conference room, room 4. I closed my eyes for a second. Room 4 was used for sensitive client meetings, and only a few people had access. Stephen, Edward, and Robert, when he came to pick me up and would wait there. I opened my eyes and felt an almost clean certainty. Robert had used the corporate environment as a rehearsal. Then he used our home as the stage. Then he used his daughter as the mask. Mark took a step closer. Are you going to report this? I already have, I said. Now I'm going to prove it. Mark swallowed hard. You need protection. I need time, I replied, and for them to make a mistake. I went back to the temporary apartment to find Henry waiting with his laptop open. He'd gotten news. Caroline, he said, a process server tried to find you at the condo today. Robert filed for an emergency hearing, claiming you're on the run. I took off my jacket slowly. He wants to paint me as guilty of everything. Henry nodded. And there's more. Lucy posted a vague story on Instagram. Doesn't use your name, but anyone could figure it out, talking about controlling women who destroy families. It's making the rounds. I felt the weight of it. Not shame, but disgust. I sat down and opened my phone. The post was there, full of comments from people who knew nothing, judging as if it were a soap opera. I read one comment that hurt more than all the others. Poor Dad. He deserves some peace. Peace? I laughed without a sound. Henry slammed his laptop shut. I'm filing for an emergency injunction to have that removed and stop the defamation. No, I said. He stared at me. What do you mean, no? Let her, I replied. Every word she writes will become evidence of a pattern. She's digging. Henry sighed with irritation, but he understood. You want her to expose herself? I want her to feel too safe, I said. Because people who feel too safe make mistakes. Henry was silent for a moment, then said, Miller called me. The preliminary forensics found a microboard in the earbud case. It's not a normal device. It's bugged. My whole body went cold. So, it's official. It's official, Henry confirmed. And now this becomes a real criminal case. I got up, went to the sink, filled a glass with water, and drank it like medicine. I came back and rested my hands on the table. Henry, I want one thing. Name it. I want Robert to believe he's won, that he's kicked me out. Henry frowned. What do you mean? I'm going to send him a short message, I said. I'm going to pretend I'm broken, that I can't take it anymore, that I'll accept a deal. Henry's posture stiffened. No. Yes, I replied calmly, because he'll open his mouth and Daniel will want the money, and Lucy will want to watch. They'll show up. Henry ran a hand over his face. You're putting yourself in the line of fire. I'm already there, I said. Except now I choose where. I picked up my phone, opened my conversation with Robert, and slowly typed. I don't want to fight anymore. Let's talk. I'll agree to resolve this calmly. I didn't send it right away. I looked at Henry. You'll be with me. He sighed. I will. I sent it. The blue check marks appeared instantly, too fast, as if he'd been waiting. 2 minutes later, he replied. Robert. Finally. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. That restaurant in the West Loop. Just the two of us. No lawyers. I smiled. He asked for no lawyers. Perfect. because I was bringing one without him knowing. Henry took the phone from my hand. "You're not going alone." "I'm not going alone," I confirmed. "But I'm going to look like I am." It is illiterate. That night I slept little again. But for the first time in days, I slept with a different feeling. It wasn't peace. It was leverage. The restaurant in the West Loop had low lights and music, too quiet to hide a bad conversation. A corner table, far from the door. Robert had chosen well. People who plan dirty things always pick the location like it's a stage set. I arrived 5 minutes early. Simple dress, a light blazer, hair pulled back, no flashy jewelry. I wanted to look tired, not powerful. My purse was light. My personal phone, a pen, a lipstick, and the essential ingredient, silence. Henry was at a table on the other side of the room, alone, pretending to read emails. He didn't look at me. He just existed as security. And Detective Miller was outside in an unmarked car. I couldn't see him, but I knew. When Robert walked in, I almost didn't recognize the man I had married. It wasn't his appearance, it was his eyes. He had the air of someone who was certain he had won, the kind of certainty that only exists when someone thinks you have nowhere left to go. He sat down without kissing me. "You look different," he said. "I'm awake," I replied. He let out a short, ironic laugh. "You disappear, you embarrass me, and you still talk like you're the victim." I didn't argue. I let him talk, because my plan depended on it. The waiter came. He ordered a beer. I ordered sparkling water. Robert rolled his eyes, as if I were difficult even in this. Then he began. "We're going to resolve this like adults. You sign the divorce papers, you leave quietly, and this thing at work will go away." I rested my fingers on the rim of my glass. "Go away how?" He gave an almost patient smile. "I withdraw the complaint. I'll say I overreacted, that it was a marital spat. You save face." I looked at him calmly. "And why did you file the complaint, Robert?" He leaned forward. "Because you were spinning out of control. You were going through my things. You were acting strange." "Was I going through your things, or were you hiding things?" I asked quietly. He bit his lip, irritated. "You always have to sound smarter than everyone." I didn't have to sound it. I was. "You put me in the middle of a data breach," I continued, "with a bugged device, and then you filed for a protective order." Robert waved his hand as if shooing away a fly. "Don't be so dramatic." That phrase made me want to laugh. "Don't be so dramatic," I repeated, and my tone came out so cold that he paused for a second. "You almost destroyed my career. You know that, right?" He took a sip of his beer without rushing. "Caroline, you have to understand something. Life has a way of balancing things out, and you've always had the upper hand." "The upper hand?" I asked. "You have the name, the respect, the money. You have everything," he said, and his eyes glinted with resentment. "And I just wanted some balance." There it was, the motive. It wasn't love, it was competition. I let the next step of my plan unfold, his mistake. "So you did this out of pride?" I asked, as if I were too tired to fight. He exhaled, almost confident. It wasn't just pride. It was necessity. I slowly lifted my gaze. "What necessity?" Robert hesitated, and I saw a flicker of fear cross his face, the fear of saying too much. I tilted my head gently. "I'm not going to yell. I just want to understand." He fell for it. "I'm in debt," he finally said, "and it's not a small amount." I felt my stomach clench, but my face gave nothing away. "To whom?" He looked to the side, as if someone might overhear. The restaurant continued on as normal. Laughter, clinking plates, other people's lives. "To people who don't wait," he answered. I took a controlled breath. "Daniel." He froze for just a second. It was enough. "You know," he mumbled. "I heard his voice," I replied. "He sent me an audio message." Robert didn't deny it. And that was the clearest confession. "He scared you because he wanted to." "Daniel's an idiot," Robert said, as if it were a minor detail. "But he also gets things done. He knows the right people." I rested my glass on the table. "You put your daughter in the middle of this." His face hardened. "Don't act like you care about her." "I cared more than you can imagine," I said. "I just never needed to prove it." Robert took a deep, irritated breath. "Lucy did what she had to do. She's loyal." "Loyal?" The word came out dirty. I continued without rushing, pulling the thread until the fabric tore. So it was you who authorized that man to come up to the apartment on Friday night. He smiled, a small, dangerous smile. You think doormen don't talk, do you? I didn't answer. I let him sink himself. Yes, he confessed. I authorized it. So what? You weren't home. It was just a visitor. A visitor to use my Wi-Fi and my home as the scene of a crime, I completed. He clicked his tongue. Crime. You love those words. Because I live in risk, I replied. And you live in lies. That was the moment Robert lost control. Lies are what you do every day, Caroline, he shot back, low and aggressive. You've always been cold. You've always treated everyone like a project. Even Lucy. You were never family. I felt the blow not for what he said, but for the intent to hit where it hurt. And it did hurt because I had tried, but I didn't show it. I just said, you gave me a gift, a trap, and then you kicked me out of my own home. He spread his arms wide. What did you want? For me to choose you and lose everything? I looked him straight in the eye. You chose to save yourself and threw me in front of the bus. He was silent for a moment, and then he let it out, as if it were a final justification. If someone had to fall, better you than me. The sentence was so clean and so cruel that even the air around us seemed to stop, and that's when my plan came together. I took out my phone and placed it on the table, screen dark. Robert looked at it and laughed. Are you recording this? Going to create drama for the internet? I didn't answer because I didn't have to. Henry stood up from across the room and walked toward us with firm steps. Behind him, Detective Miller walked in. Robert went pale instantly. The glass trembled in his hand. What is this? He whispered. Miller calmly showed his identification. Mr. Robert Moreira. You're being brought in for questioning. We have evidence of your participation in attempted extortion, wire fraud, and filing a false police report. Robert stared at me as if I had become a different person. You set me up. I stood up slowly without touching him. No, I replied. You set yourself up. I just stopped pretending I didn't see it. He tried to stand too, but Miller placed a hand on his shoulder. And before he was led away, Robert had the audacity to say, You're going to destroy Lucy too? I looked at him with the coldness he had always deserved. I'm going to save Lucy from the father you've become. Outside, the night air was cool. Chicago seemed indifferent. That's how life was. People falling while the L train rattled past. 2 days later, the forensic report officially confirmed the device had been tampered with. The firm launched a serious internal investigation. Stephen lost his position. Edward was suspended. I was formally exonerated, and the protective order was dismissed when the judge saw the evidence of manipulation. Lucy asked to speak with me. Henry didn't want me to. Miller didn't advise it, but I accepted. She showed up with swollen eyes and trembling hands. I didn't think it would get to this, she said. It always does when no one stops it at the beginning, I replied, without cruelty. She cried softly. My dad said you were going to leave us, that you were going to take everything. I looked at this girl who had tried to destroy me, and for a second, I saw someone who had never felt safe. I'm not going to take your life away, I said, but you are going to learn to answer for your actions. She sat in silence, for the first time without theatrics. That week, I returned to work. I walked into the building with my head held high, not because I wanted applause, but because I deserved my ground. And when I sat at my desk, Mark walked by and left a small, folded note without looking at me. You proved that calm isn't weakness. I put it in my pocket. On Friday, I woke up early in my new apartment. I made coffee and opened the window. The sun came in slowly, as if it didn't want to startle me. My phone was quiet, and for the first time in a long time, so was I. Family can hurt on any continent, but dignity, that's something you rebuild with your own 2 hands.